Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to our nerdiest thing. Today we have a very special guest, author Leslye Penelope. Fantasy and paranormal romance author Leslye Penelope is the award-winning author of the Earthsinger Chronicles. The first book in the series, Song of Blood and Stone, was chosen as one of Time Magazine's 100 best fantasy books of all time. Equally left and right-brained, she studied filmmaking and computer science at Howard University and sometimes dreams in HTML. She hosts the My Imaginary Friends podcast, co-hosts the Ink and Magic podcast, and lives in Maryland with her feline dependents. She has been writing since she could hold a pen and loves getting lost in the worlds in her head. We will be seeing Leslye at the Imaginarium Book Festival this June. She's appearing as a special guest and participating in the Lit Talks. Welcome to the podcast, Leslye. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Congratulations on the Time Best of all time, that Time
I
Magazine honor. That's
know.
amazing.
Yeah, that was super surprising. I couldn't believe it when I heard the news. It's just fantastic.
I feel like I would introduce myself to everybody like that. I would be like, "Hi, I am one of the best of all time according to Time Magazine. Nice to
I
meet you."
I have a friend who does that. Whenever he like introduces me, he's like, "And Leslye is one of the best of all time." And I'm like, "Okay, calm down."
Time Magazine said so.
Right?
So it's definitely true. No, I would do that all the time. That's so great. So tell us about your path to becoming an author, especially you say you're equally left and right brained. I love the idea of being into computer science and dreaming in HTML, but also being creative enough to be a fiction fantasy writer. I couldn't do both of those things or either of those things, quite frankly. So, so how did you make that transition? How did that journey look for you?
Well, I really started writing. I started out as a creative person. Like I wrote ever since I was a little kid. I was always in writers' camps. Like instead of going away to summer camp and doing outside things, I was in a writing camp
I
doing
was
things.
an indoor kid too. I get you.
Yeah, and like reading, like going to a party with a book and reading in the corner, that kind of thing. So, but I did love computer science once I got a computer early on in like elementary school or middle school, and I was always taking it apart. So I was kind of feeding those two parts of myself. And when I got to college, I wasn't sure whether I was going to major in like what I was going to major in. And so computer science was there. I ended up getting a scholarship to the communications department, so that kind of settled it. Creative writing didn't seem like a reasonable thing to major in. I didn't think I could make my living. I didn't imagine that I was going to be making my living as a writer anytime soon. So I chose film production, which was still creative. I could still write, I could
Yeah.
edit, I can do all kinds of things, but you can get a job afterwards. And then minored in computer science. And I was always melding them together because I got a master's in multimedia, which is like a combination of computer science and art and business and education, and just sort of like made up this degree. And then I started making websites. So it was always just like hand in hand. And I find that I'm not super satisfied if I'm doing only one thing or only the
Mhm.
other thing. I kind of have to be like, feeding my technical side and also feeding the creative side, which is why I started a business doing websites. I'm a website developer part-time and a writer part-time now because I still want to do both things.
That's awesome. The only thing I know about HTML other than just like it's the internet, we had to, when I was in the sixth grade, we had to write a code, an HTML code. But this was like 1997-ish.
Hmm.
So it was still very early, especially to
Yeah.
ask 11 and 12-year-olds to do it, right? And
Right.
so it turned my brain off completely to that whole line of thinking because I was like, I don't understand this. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And I still one of my oldest kid asked me how Wi-Fi worked, and I was like, oh, magic. I don't know.
Like, how does television work? I don't know. It's just
Yeah, I
up
don't
in
know.
the
It
air.
just it just does. But anybody that can understand those things and be creative in that kind of technical space, I'm very impressed and awed by. So we bow to you. So you host two different podcasts. You've got My Imaginary Friends and Ink and Magic. Can you tell us a little bit about those podcast shows and kind of what led you to become a podcast host?
Yeah, so the My Imaginary Friends is my first podcast. I've had it for about 5 years now. And it's a solo show. It's kind of just the behind the scenes of an author's life. So I started it. I had some inspiration. Like there's a show called The Creative Pen, which is a indie writer podcast, and she has guests, but in the beginning, she will do this personal update. And I really wanted to document the journey for myself primarily because I would get to a book and I would be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And my friends would be like, every time you get to this point in the middle of the book and you say this, you say the same things and you're doing the same things and you will figure it out. So I was like, well, let me document this so that I know that I can do it again and that other people, other writers and readers who are interested in how, the sausage gets made can see behind the scenes. And so I've been doing that for a long time. And then I kind of wanted to do another podcast with other people since
Mm.
it's not really an interview-based show. It's just me talking. And so one of my best friends is Ines Johnson. We actually went to Howard University together. We met freshman year and we're on this writing journey together. And she's a super prolific indie author with like 3 pen names. But we love paranormal romance and fantasy romance. And so we were like, what can we do? She's a huge fan of the Fated Mates podcast. Like she dragged me up to New York from Maryland to go see them recording live. And I was like, yeah, I'm here for it. And, they started out that podcast by rereading Cressley Cole, Immortals After Dark, which was one of the ways that I got into loving paranormal romance. The other way was Nalini Singh's Side Changeling series. So we decided, it's been 10 or so years since we read that series and we didn't catch up. We all kind of
Mm.
stopped at a certain point. So like we're going to reread the series, do a podcast on that, and get to the end, catch up to where she is now because she's still writing these books. And so I get to
Mm.
do it with one of my best friends who I've known for 20 years, and we have a lot of fun. We also started having guests. Just because, we're going to read a book every other week. We're trying not to stress ourselves out too much. And it's been a lot of fun doing different things. So having a podcast where I'm just telling my listeners what I've been doing that week, the highs and the lows of the writing life, and also getting to chat with other people about books that I love.
So the podcast where you talk about your kind of struggles and ups
Mhm.
and downs of writing, do you actually go back and listen to those episodes when you're feeling stuck in a current project, or is it just helpful to just get it out and leave it behind after you talk about it, you know?
Yeah, occasionally I will go back. I don't go back a whole lot, but there are times when I'm like, huh, I wonder what I was talking about 2 years ago. I'm a little afraid, but I'm curious to see what was going on. But otherwise it is just helpful to do it, to like have recorded it, have said it into the world. And I think it's helpful to people. I get feedback from listeners that they're
Yeah.
enjoying it and they're feeling seen and they're feeling like, oh, everyone goes through this, especially if they're
Yeah.
newer writers. It kind of just lets you know that you're not alone in these feelings and these experiences.
Yeah, because when you're working on something, any kind of project really that's important to you, it is really easy to feel like I'm the only one that struggles with this. Everybody else knows what they're doing, and I'm the only
Right.
one that's gonna fail at this. And that's like a nice big group therapy session, I bet, to listen to another writer talk about the exact things that you are also struggling with. So I think that's really great. I love
Yeah.
that. And that kind of leads into but this piece of your website that I found that I really, really loved, the what I'm currently working on. So your readers can go to your website and look at what you are writing right now. And they're
Mhm.
just little blurbs of a current I think right now, or when I looked last week, at a current project that you kind of described a little bit, and then it was like, and in the future, just a little bit about this, and no
Yeah.
title or anything at all. I loved that so much. So can you tell us a little bit about the paranormal thriller that you have that little teaser about and that what I'm currently working on?
Yeah, it is this what I've been working on for the past couple of months is I'm calling it the Book of Secrets. I did give it a name,
Nice.
although, it's for traditional publishing, so who knows if we're going to keep that name. But at the moment, it is a paranormal thriller set in 1999. It has to do with the Y2K crisis, and
Nice.
it's about a young woman
Oh.
whose younger sister, she sees her getting into a car with a strange man, and she sees her teenage sister get kidnapped. But
Mhm.
then the next day, no one remembers her sister ever existed. And
Oh.
it is,
Oh.
yeah, I'm super excited about this. It's an idea I actually started writing this book 10 years ago, and I've been on and off, mostly off for 10 years, like trying to fit it in between my other projects, my other contracts, and I just wasn't ready I had a whole draft that was done years ago that was not terrible. It was just not right. And so sometimes it takes a long time to like figure out what the story is, figure out the angle. And yeah, I'm writing it like this morning. I'm going to give it a proposal to my agent and hopefully sell it to my publisher. That's the goal.
I love that. I love that idea. That's so
That is so
unique.
cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, and it marries your two interests also. It brings in your computer science and your
Yes, it does.
that
It
part of your
actually,
brain too.
in
So
more ways too. Yeah, because I'm dealing with like a new kind of magic system. And I was just always fascinated by Y2K and kind of on this other side of it, 25 years later almost like what happened? It was such a big part of our lives. And because I've been
it
doing
was.
historical fantasy, it's historical, even though like 99, to say that's historical, like makes me feel very old, but like it is.
We've had that discussion on our podcast. What
We
counts as
have.
historical fiction? How long ago does it have to be? Maybe
Right?
what was it? It as long just an
I think
important
it was
historical event.
well, it's as long as it's part of the plot line. Like, so if you were to write a story set in 1999, but it was just these two people met and fell in love or whatever, and it was just like that was the setting. But
Mhm.
like, since you're doing it based on Y2K, that would be considered historical fiction because it was an actual historical event that happened, and you're writing your characters around that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all
That's what I
remember
found, at least.
Y2K on this call. We all feel a little old.
Yes.
So that brings me to you have a new release coming out this summer. Tell us a little bit about Daughter of the Merciful Deep. I love that title.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for that book to come out because that was inspired by this viral video clip that was from the Amber Ruffin show, which is a late night show, like a couple years ago. It went viral and it was talking about drowned towns. And under lakes all across the country, there are towns that used to be there. And then when they built a dam, they made a reservoir and they flooded whatever was around there. And so I was driving over a lake in Burlington, Vermont, and just thinking, what if there was a town down there? And so that was the genesis of the idea. So it takes place in 1935 in the Deep South, and it's an all-black town that's become a haven for people, and it's being threatened by the construction of a new dam. So my main character, Jane, is trying to save her home and her community. And this mysterious man comes into the town saying he can help. But the only thing is, he's been dead for 12 years. So it is just a fantasy. It's kind of a portal fantasy, but it's also this historical aspect of real history, real Black history and real American history. And hopefully it'll be like a fun adventure, but also poignant. Like there's a lot of things happening in it that I'm excited for people to read about.
Is this part of a series, a standalone?
It's a standalone. Yeah. So I've been dealing in historical fiction and I kind of wanted to connect it to my previous book, The Monsters We Defy,
Mhm.
but it doesn't actually connect. I wanted to do something different with the magic and though it is our world in the past, there's no other connections at the moment.
And when in the summer does that come out?
It comes out June 4th.
June 4th. Oh,
So
well,
So will you have
Imaginarium,
that at Imaginarium?
that's what I was just
yes,
thinking.
Yay.
I can get one in Imaginarium. Fantastic.
absolutely.
Put
Yes, it'll
that one
be
on my list.
release
Yes.
week. So we'll like celebrate the release at Imaginarium.
Yeah, oh, that'll be
Oh, how
so
cool.
fun. Oh, I'm really excited about that. So that leads right into the last thing that I wanted to ask you about Imaginarium. So we'll see you there. We'll be there with all kinds of amazing authors at this fantasy book convention. Is there anybody that you are excited to fangirl about that will be at Imaginarium with us this summer?
Yeah, it's such a great event. I'm really excited to meet Lauren Blackwood in person. I got to read her book. I actually blurbed her book, but we've never met. And then also Elise Kova, who's a superstar. I love her books as well. It'd be awesome to meet her. And the people who come every year, like Jessica Cage and AJ
Yeah.
Verana, Andy Jones, like people who I see at this event, because I think it's the third year in person that I've been. I think it's the third year in person that they've had it. So I
Yeah.
try to go every year. It's like my home event and it's so much fun and they always get really great special guests. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. We're talking to all of those people that you mentioned, almost all of them in the next couple of weeks. That's funny. So, yeah, well, we're going to be very excited to see you and to get your new book. I cannot wait to read that.
Yes,
That sounds right up both of our alleys, doesn't it, Mindy? Like,
definitely.
yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
All right,
All right, so
Mindy,
now
you go
we're going to
ahead.
move on. Yeah, we're going to move on to the next portion, and we call this our nerdy and dirty speed round. And your questions aren't dirty though. So like I'll sometimes they do get dirty, but we kept it clean for you.
Thank you. I
but
guess.
but they're just this is just a quick round, throw it out, whatever the first thing that comes to your mind is, and we'll just get to know you a little bit better. So we're gonna start with, what are you reading right now?
I'm currently reading this book called The Fall of Souls by R.A. Moreau. It is this Black fantasy romance based in a sort of Egyptian-inspired world with the Egyptian gods and goddesses coming to life. And so far, it's really, really fantastic.
Awesome.
That sounds super cool. Oh my gosh. I love a lot of the stuff that you're describing is so different from anything that's out there. Like the books that you're writing and then this book, that's so cool. I love something that's just gonna be totally different for me. And I just totally made this not a speed round, sorry. So the next question is, what are you listening to?
I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. So in doing this, there's a podcast called Great Mysteries of Physics, which sounds really boring, but it's fascinating, and it helps me with my research for this book that I'm writing, oddly enough.
Nice. That's so cool. What are you watching?
I've been obsessed with the show Couples Therapy, on Showtime. I was watching it on a plane, and it's just the most fascinating thing to see inside these people's relationships. I just can't look away. It's like a car wreck.
I get clips from that show on my TikTok For You page, and
Oh,
I always watch them in detail. And my husband's like, just watch the show. I'm like, well, I don't need to. It's right here. But
right.
I'm the same.
Because it
I
gets
love
sent
those
straight
clips.
to me.
Yeah.
It's great.
All right. And what are you loving?
Spring. We've had really wonderful weather in Maryland this week at least. Maryland is funny. It'll change on a dime, but I love the fact that spring is here. April is my birthday month. I always appreciate when it's nice and sunny and pleasant outside during April.
Happy birthday
Oh,
month.
yay.
Thank you.
Yes. And finally, for the speed round, what is your favorite spot to read? Like when you go to read, where's your go-to place?
Um, I'm usually on the couch with a cat on top of me. So I'm like just lying,
Me too.
on a bunch of pillows. I have two cats, and so they take turns like laying on me while I'm reading, and that's generally where you'll find me.
Mine Mine legit, like, lays up here on my shoulder, like, all and she's huge, like, the little one does. I have 2 cats also, the little one doesn't care for me, but, the big one, she's 15 and I've she's 15, I've raised her from when she could fit in the palm of my hand, but she lays on me too, that's so awesome. I honestly don't run across many cat lovers. I feel like sometimes I'm the only one in my
Oh,
circle.
yeah, the cat lovers are
Alright,
special.
so
Mm,
they
sorry.
are, they are. Yeah, Whitney. So so no, Whitney's got a really, really cute dog too, though.
That is true.
So where online can readers connect with you? Do you have like social media accounts or one particular that you like to haunt?
Yeah, my favorite right now is Instagram. So you can find me at Leslye Penelope on Instagram, and it's Leslye. And my website is lpenelope.com, and everything is linked to there. All the podcasts, all the books, everything.
Awesome. Go check it out, listeners. And so can we buy your books on your website? Do
Yes,
you
I
have
do. I
your
sell
books for
signed
sale?
copies of all the self-published books and some of the traditional published books if I have extra copies. But like the newer ones might not be there. So
Okay. And then can we buy your books anywhere else besides Imaginarium?
yes, my books are all wide, and so wherever you like to buy books, you should be able to find mine.
That's yay. Do you have any other conventions or events that you're going to be attending besides Imaginarium?
I'm Well, at the end of April, depending on when this airs, I'll be at ApollyCon, which is also in the DC area. And right, that's everything officially right now. I'm still scheduling the fall. So, oh, actually, in May, I will be in Seattle there's an event
Ooh.
with Melissa Marr. It's a reader tea, like a paranormal romance author's tea, which
Oh,
I'm really
fun.
excited about
Ooh.
because I love Seattle. So that's on the calendar.
I wish that was closer to me.
Deb couldn't be
So,
on the interview tonight, but Deb
yep,
will be at a Polycon with Kate Gately.
yes.
She's being Kate Gately's PA. So
Ooh,
we'll send
nice.
her over your way if she's able to get
Yeah,
away from
Yes.
Kate's table.
definitely.
So the final question is, if you for our listeners who listen to the podcast, we always end with our nerdiest thing of the week. And it's usually something book related, but it doesn't have to be. It could be something you just another nerdy thing you're into or something silly that happened to you that week. So we would love to hear what your nerdiest thing of the week is.
Nerdier than listening to a physics podcast. I was probably listening to a linguistics podcast. I do a lot of like, it's entertainment, but it's also research. And I love, in another life, I would have been a linguist. So my favorite podcast is Lexicon Valley and just like nerding out on the origin of language. Oh, this other thing, which is very related, this article that I dove into about like last names in America and where last names come from. And it's not exactly what you would think. So yeah, just geeking out on language and names.
Well, you and I just need to get together and have a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or something because I am the resident word nerd. And like
Ooh,
my segment on the podcast is our nerdiest vocabulary. So I always love to delve into the etymology of things. It's like
nice.
my favorite thing to do. It's so
Yay.
cool. So yes, I'm right there with you. We're on the same wavelength.
Excellent.
Yeah, you guys need to drink hot tea and talk about your cats and talk
Right? And
about
talk
words.
about words
Yes.
in the Oxford Dictionary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's so great. Well, it was so great to get to meet you and talk to you kind of in person. And we will be excited to see you for real in person at Imaginarium in June. And I'm excited to read your stuff and get your new book. It's going to be
Yes.
really fun.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Yeah, thanks for being on and have a great rest of your night.
Me too.
Bye.